Okay, so the theme for this week is thesis statements. We're going to be looking at the construction thesis statement and what makes a successful thesis statement. So really quickly, I want to go through this presentation with you to give you a broad overview of thesis statements. There'll be some supplemental readings, but this will just give you a really quick idea of what a thesis statement should look like and help you while you're constructing your own. Let's see. So what is a thesis statement? A thesis statement is where you give us your claim. It's where you present your position, and it's a complete sentence. It's very specific, and it establishes your direction. So one of the most important things is that your thesis statement should not just be a fact or an event. It should actually be your claim. Words like should be in there somewhere. Not necessarily should, but there should be something in there that tells us that you have a claim that you're making. It needs to be a debatable claim. So where does the thesis statement go? It goes in your introduction paragraph. Often it's the last line of your first paragraph, but that doesn't have to be the case. You know your writing. If you get started with your writing and you're in a flow and your thesis statement falls a couple lines before the last, that's okay. As long as it's towards the end of the introduction, you'll be fine. But again, you know the flow of your writing, you know what works for you, you know what's going to work for your paper. So the thesis statement can be at the last line, but it could also be one of the other last lines, as long as it's towards the end. So what the thesis statement is not, the thesis is never a question, and it's never a statement of purpose. It should be a claim. It should be something that you're going to debate, something that you're going to argue, so it should tell us what direction you're going in, but you want it to be a formal thesis statement. So one of the biggest things that I see that's a big no-no is that informal thesis statement that starts with in this paper or for the sake of this paper I will. These types of thesis statements are not going to work, and the reason for that is because the obvious, if you're writing a paper, we know we're your audience, we understand that you're writing a paper. There's no reason, no need to tell us in this paper I will, because we get it. We know, we're reading it, we understand that it's a paper. So you can avoid that altogether. It is okay to write papers from that first person point of view, especially if it's a topic that's really important to you. But for the sake of this type of writing, this type of sophisticated writing that you're going to be doing in my course, you don't need to start with in this paper I will, or while I was researching for this paper. Nowhere should that stuff come into place. So just be mindful of that as you're writing. So the thesis should address 3 questions. It should tell us the what, the how, and the why, and these are all implicitly done. You will never state this is important because this is how I think this is how I'm going to prove this point, or this is why this is important. This is all implicitly done. So your thesis statement should answer these questions. We should, or at the very least, we should walk away from the thesis statement and understand exactly what the answer to these questions is. And it may, again, it's implicitly stated, so it may be that the 2 or 3 of the questions, all 2 or all 3 are answered in the same statement, but at some point you have to be able to let your audience know in that one statement the what claim you're making, the how, what kinds of evidence you're going to use to support it, and the why. Why is this relevant? Why is it important? So remember, you're taking a stand. You're going to be arguing a certain claim, and so your thesis statement should give us that direction. It should tell us exactly where we're going. So a couple of examples. This is not an appropriate thesis. There are some negative and positive aspects to taking Excedrin migraine medicine. This is inappropriate because it's middle of the road. It doesn't give us a stand either way. And so we need something that's a stronger thesis. So a good example of this topic would be, since Excedrin migraine medicine contains acetaminophen, which could cause lasting health issues such as severe liver damage, the FDA should regulate the drug's availability to the public by removing it from its over-the-counter status. So in this thesis statement, we have our claim is the FDA should take this away from over-the-counter. Then, of course, the why is that it causes lasting health issues. That's why it's important. That's why it's significant. And the how, our evidence is that it contains acetaminophen. So this paper, we understand, is going to tell us through that piece of evidence that excedrin is going to cause these lasting health issues, and then this is what the FDA should do to fix this problem. So that's a good thesis. What to avoid, the plot thesis. This is one I see very often. The thesis should never just contain a fact or an event like we talked about before. It's making a claim. It's going to tell you, this is what I'm arguing, this is, where we're going in this paper. So to give you an example, this is not a strong thesis because this is a plot thesis. Maternity leave in the United States allows for new mothers to take a maximum of 12 unpaid weeks of leave, while in Europe, new mothers are granted 1 full year of paid maternity leave. So that's just a statement. That's just a fact. Now, if you want to make a claim, maybe your claim is going to be something like the United States should revise its FMLA policies to, reflect a similar model as the European model. That's a claim. But in this particular thesis, we really have no idea what direction the author is going to go in, whether he or she thinks that the United States has got it figured out or the Europe model is the correct model. We have no idea. So we do need to know what direction you as the writer plan to take while you're making your argument. Another thesis to avoid would be the overly general thesis. And what I mean by this is that it shouldn't be so broad that I could slip anything in and it work. An example of this is vitamin D is essential to the human body. First of all, this is a plot thesis because it's just a statement. But second of all, vitamin D, sure, it's essential to the human body, but so is vitamin C. So is calcium. So, there's all kinds of different things that you could slip in here in place of vitamin D and it would work. So you want to make sure that you're specific. The list thesis. Now this is a big one that I see because high schools are teaching this all over the place. And I know this because my husband has taught high school for 10 years and has tried to push against this, but it's so ingrained in your curriculum. So I understand that it's hard to get away from, but it's the 3-pronged thesis statement. And the reason that this is it's fine to do that at that high school level. Since we're going to be doing a more sophisticated type of writing, we want to push against that 3-pronged thesis statement. And the reason for that is that 3-pronged statement, that list thesis, really limits what you can write about. So for an example, if your thesis looks like this: the Civil War was the most destructive war in the United States history due to the economy, the severe amount of soldier deaths, and the significant impact on the citizens at home. So now you got your 3-pronged thesis. You got the 3 reasons: economy, soldier deaths, and the impact on the citizens at home. So these are your 3 issues. And while it's great if you want to talk about these things, naming them in your thesis limits you. Now you can only talk about economy, soldier deaths, and the significant impact on the citizens at home. So now your audience is completely aware of the thesis. It's very, very structured, and it's limiting. So you want to make sure that your thesis is making a statement that is specific, but doesn't list exactly what you're going to talk about. You want to give yourself room because maybe you get started talking about economy and there are a couple things in economy that you want to talk about, and you want the flexibility to be able to do that. And then the same thing is soldier deaths. There may be tons of things under that soldier death umbrella that you want to talk about. You want some room to be able to talk about these things. And as you get going, the flow of your writing may give you, you may introduce topics that you weren't thinking of originally. That's the whole idea behind free writing, is that if you just sit down and write, these ideas come that you didn't even know that you had. So you want your thesis to give you some room, but still, of course, be specific. Tell us exactly where we're going. Just give us room to go in within different directions under that greater umbrella of the claim. So this is just a couple of examples of a successful thesis statement to give you an idea, get you on track to starting to create your own. With the growing increase of marketing potential available online, companies should take advantage by using websites that offer both advertising and customer support. So your claim is that companies should take advantage of using these websites, and then of course your how and your why are kind of rolled in there together. It's the growing increase of marketing potential. So there's all this marketing potential out there. That's the how and the why at the same time. So we know that marketing potential is why this is so important, because there's all this room out there for companies to use the internet to their advantage. But we also understand that that's the how as well. That's using the internet is going to offer more advertising opportunities. Below that, despite the continued concern by parents and feminist groups, the personification of the Mattel Barbie doll as a girl with career ambitions sets a positive example for young girls everywhere. So your claim is that Barbie is setting a positive example. Your why is that it's giving young girls this really positive example. It's good for young girls, and it's significant because it impacts our youth. And the why is that she's a career girl, that she's got career aspirations, that she's working in these different fields. There's an attorney Barbie, there's a doctor Barbie, a veterinarian Barbie, all these different Barbies, and they're giving young girls a role model. Now, this topic may be one that you want to work with from another angle, and that's fine. I'm just giving you guys ideas of thesis statements that you can work from. So, and that's really, in a nutshell, that's thesis statements. That's a really quick presentation. And again, you're going to have your supplemental readings that you're going to do to go along with this. So, please let me know if you have questions about the thesis statement. Maybe you want to compose one, send it to me in an email, ask me what you think. I'm totally fine to look at any thesis statements that you've got. It is a very delicate dance creating the thesis. It is, because it is the pivotal point of your paper, of your argument. So, when you're doing your early drafts and your vision, make sure that you're communicating with your classmates on whether or not, giving them feedback on whether or not their thesis statement's working, if it's too broad, if it's a list thesis, let them know and help them fix any issues that they may have. So that's it in a nutshell.